What is going on, everybody? Hades 2 is in early access now and it is already a solid offering. No bugs, no glitches, no performance issues, absolute buttload of content for early access. In mind, it is a proper quality content, not a copy and paste stuff. If not a few missing arts, it could be just a ready game. I have my doubts about selling officially non-ready games, but Supergiant and their early access model is a union made in heavens. Developers of Hades and Hades 2 not only delivered worthy product early on, but also are making the most of community engagement. So if you're wondering if you should get Hades 2 early access, the short answer is yes. But if you're interested in a slightly more detailed review, welcome to the video. But before I start talking about Hades 2, I would like to get back to the predecessor for a little bit. You see, Hades 1 is a very special game for me. The fool I was not really much into indie games. But with increasing fatigue caused by bloated AAA titles coming more and more often in much worse shape than they supposed to, I decided to give Hades a go. On the surface, it packed all of the things I liked. Isometric view, Greek mythology, and very nice art. And oh boy, I'm so glad I did. I was shocked by how much you can achieve with so little. Despite its repetitive nature, writing was so tight and so on point. Build system was easy to understand, but with enough depth if you want to play on higher difficulties. Fun and very addictive game loop where you want to play again and again, not to grind some resources and not to advance the story, though as I said the story and characters are actually pretty good, but just for the sake of playing. But most importantly, it was so refreshing to play a game that only had what was necessary. No 10-minute long cutscenes, no overly complicated build systems where you spend most of the time in the build calculator. No enormous but bland open world. You can just take your weapon and have a blast. I can't say if Hades 1 is one of the best indie games ever made, but it will always be a huge and important milestone for myself. And this makes the shoes Hades 2 has to feel even bigger in my eyes. In Hades 2 you play as witch Melinoe, daughter of Hades and Persephone, younger sister of Zagreus, Hades 1 protagonist, Kronos, titan of time and father of many gods such as Hades, Zeus, Poseidon, etc., basically returned from the dead, imprisoned Melinoe's family, took over House of Hades, and now is using it as a base to wage war on Olympus. Melinoe is tasked to stop her grandfather and save her family she never knew. Most of the story is still to unfold in front of us, so there is no way I can assess the full narrative at this stage, but it looks like we're going to witness a similar thread of uniting the family, but on a larger scale and with higher stakes. After finishing most of the Hades 2 content available after patch 1, May 17, 2024, Mel feels to me flat compared to Zagreus. She's very uptight and pretty much only focused on her goal, and that's kinda it. However, this might be rather intentional. In the end of the day, she was basically raised to beat Kronos, and I feel like through the interactions with support characters, we can get a good character development arc later. Support characters are very colorful, but mostly stay on the side of the archetype with story and personality rather than falling down to the plain stereotypes. So far, everything I have seen narrative-wise, it is as smart and tight as Hades 1. Yes, some of the dialogues come a bit out of time, like when you defeat Kronos on your next run, you die before getting to him and people start talking to you like you actually never reached him. But I understand the constraints of such a gaming loop and it doesn't bother me too much. A bit of a letdown for me was underutilization of Kronos and his ability to manipulate time. This could be basically a pinch-perfect setting for roguelike subgenre. It could be something like when your run is over, either by completing it or dying, Chronos rewinds time and only those who stay in the crossroads and Chronos himself are aware of this rewind, wouldn't it be a perfect? Instead, the game multiple times tells us how Chronos is time itself, but never shows us his ability to manipulate it. Each test just returns the protagonist to base and allows her to start the next run in a conventional timeline. Not going to lie, I hoped for more here, but it is still okay, and well, maybe something is coming. Apart from this little rant, I am genuinely pleased and can't wait to see how the main story and stories of many supporting characters are going to unfold. At first glance, Hades 2 is very similar to Hades 1 in both combat and build system, but the more I played, the more I felt the difference. Same as Zag, Mel has attack, special and cast. The Blood Shard is replaced with Binding Circle and snaring enemies. Feels almost the same, but then there are mega moves. If you channel attack, special or cast long enough, an alternate more powerful version of the move will be used. Mel also has a dodge, but she can't dodge multiple times in a row. Instead, if the player keeps holding the dodge button, character will start sprinting. None of it sounds too different, but add to it all the new arms and you get the combat with very distinct pacing. Mel combat feels more methodical compared to Zagreus. It is not like it is much slower, but it forces you to use all the tools in your disposal straight away. For comparison, with Zag, the moment I learned a few good boom combos, I basically started face rolling with dash attacks. Almost entirely ignored cast and specials, with exception of some boss encounters. I had to worry about positioning and dodging a little bit, but it was only after about 10 hits that I started to use all the tools I had. In Hades 2 it is much harder to get around like this. Combining different moves and the mega moves felt essential even with no difficulty increase. But then it feels rewarding. Some aspects feels faster and more flowing, and some more like a setup for Mike Tyson level blow. Hades 2 combat not just feels fresh, it is better paced, more diverse, and basically an improvement over Hades 1 in every possible way. All of this is reinforced with an updated boon system. It is still very familiar, different gods, 3 options, rarities, etc. Duo boons are still the thing, boons are not the same, a bit of variations in gods as well. This is all enhanced with an infusion system. Basically every boon now has one of 4 elements assigned to it, and infusion boons are either triggered when you have enough boons of certain element, or get stronger with every new boon of this element. Those are small incremental upgrades, but it helps a lot to distinguish the sequel from the original game in a smart and coherent way. In Hades 1 we were going up through Tartarus to the surface. In Hades 2 the player is taking a journey in the opposite direction, from the very edge of the underworld back to the House of Hades, albeit using a different route. Also, you can go up to the mountain Olympus, with all the different biomes and the bosses along the way. Why should we go there is not clear yet, but I bet it has something to do with finally defeating Chronos. At the time of this review, only 2 biomes are available here, but clearly there are more to come. Every biome looks stunning and visually distinct, and it is reinforced by an absolute fire soundtrack by Darren Korb. Music in Hades is not the least factor that makes this gaming loop so addictive. Though things are not over only on visuals. All biomes with exception of Force in Hades 1 were the same. You finish the room and there are multiple paths to choose from, with only one reward available. In Force biome, player had 5 rooms to choose from, with key item you need to progress the game hidden in one of them. This biome was actually very important. This visibility across all rewards within the biome allows you to plan your build ahead for more optimal results. Hades 2 navigation within each biome is way more diverse. For example, when you go down, first biome is a standard room with doors. The second biome is a very similar but with a bit of a twist, where some doors are locked and you don't know what is behind them. But you can gamble and waste some time finding additional enemies to see what could be there, if the unlocked doors are not to your liking. Ultimately, this gives you more options to choose from for better builds that require you to work for it. Third biome will require to clear the large area with 2-3 rewards available in it, and you can see those rewards before entering the area. Those different ways to navigate biomes not only help the game to feel fresh, but also changes how build is crafted along the run. This might not look like a huge update on the surface, but after spending 30 plus hours in the game, I can tell the impact it has on the build craft is massive. Absolutely spot on improvement for this game. New hub area called Crossroads. Camp set somewhere in Erebus Forest on the edge of the underworld. Cozy Lounge was replaced with a camp-style kitchen, bed chambers with a tent. It will never feel like home compared to House of Hades, but whether you like it or not, it makes sense since it is essentially a war camp. The meta progression system took a leap compared to Hades 1. There are more materials you need, and you need to take different tools with you to acquire them. Some materials are only available in the underworld and some only on the surface, and some of the materials you have to grow in your garden. Simple mirror system replaced with Arcana cards, where most of the cards take some of your slots, so the number of cards you can activate is limited. Other cards may not take any slots but require a condition to be activated, like activate all cards in any other row. Don't get me wrong, it is still pretty simple stuff if compared to something like Path of Exile or even Diablo 4, but does Hades need it? I personally don't think so. One of the aspects in Hades 1 I liked, it was not messing around with all this stuff and allowed me simply to have a blast. I was returning to the hub area, chatting to everyone, upgrading whatever I could, picking the weapon, and start next run. I was never worried about resources. I knew that if I kept just playing, I would get all I needed eventually. Maybe not in the most optimal manner, but I didn't care really. The more I spent time outside, the better. I only started spending some sizable time in the hub area when I started pushing heat closer to 16, but this is optional content territory. Now, this is obviously a matter of opinion, and if you like to spend more time in your hub area, choosing your build for a run, what resources you need to aim for, etc., and I know for sure there are plenty of people like this, then you will be pleased with all the Hades 2 changes. But for me personally, spending more time in the hub area was a bit of a letdown. Again, let's compare Hades 1 and 2 cycles here. Apart from chats with different characters, the first thing you do in both games is building new things in the hub area. Contractor in Hades 1 and Coder in Hades 2, essentially serving the same purpose. In Hades 1 I was building whatever I wanted and move on. In Hades 2 you have to mark everything you want to build but can't do it yet, so you can track what resources are needed to choose later where to go. I was completely skipping the broker in Hades 1. I think I used his services like 4 or 5 times in my entire playtime. In Hades 2, brokering is essentially the only way you can spend your bones, replacement of darkness from Hades 1, and because of that you can't really ignore this. And in Hades 2 you tend to garden. This activity was not present in Hades 1 at all, but you can't avoid it because this is the only way you can get some of the resources. Then you go to the altar, a replacement of a mirror. Mirror was a very simple and a robust way to create a meta progression. You spend keys to unlock new bonuses and Darkness to actually activate and improve those bonuses. This was it. With Altar, you now need to think about what you can activate inside your currently available slots. Then, the Mirror requires only 2 types of resources. This is not the case for the Altar. Altar requires resources called Psyche to increase the number of slots, Ashes to unlock cards, and Dust to upgrade cards, but top level cards and higher level upgrades may require some additional resources like copper or silver or things like that. Some of those resources can only be crafted in Cauldron or purchased from Broker. Then, alongside with the weapon, you need to choose the tool for resources you need to gather. Then, you need to identify whether those resources are available in the underworld or on the surface, and only then you can start the run. Well, at least if your goal is to collect more resources. This is obviously more content, and this is a good content. This is not a copy-paste, it's not boring. But whether this type of content is welcome in Hades or not, that is for you to answer. I personally think Hades in particular could do without it. Wanted quickly to mention a pretty neat feature in Hades 2 called Forget Me Not that makes things much easier. Basically, you mark things you want to craft upgrade, and the game will highlight tools you need to use or materials you need to purchase. This is a great feature. I am really glad developers added it, but there are 2 cases it doesn't quite work. Maybe if it did, the run here was much slower. The first case is gardening. It doesn't highlight the seeds you need to plant to get resources for marked upgrades. The second case doesn't tell you where resources reside, if either on the surface or in the underworld. The second one is particularly annoying. Now, I ranted about it for quite a while, but truly it is a matter of perspective, and even for me it is not a deal breaker. Hades 2 is still a great game, great early access offering, and already an improvement over its predecessor. If for some reason you didn't play Hades 1, I would suggest you go and try that first since it's already a complete game. But if you already did play Hades 1 and enjoyed it, you can't really go wrong with this sequel.